The 13 siblings rescued from the California House of Horrors will not live together again, despite pleading with the authorities to stay as a family. The 6 Turpin children among the 13 found shackled at their home in Paris have been told that they will be split up into 2 foster homes. Meanwhile, the 7 adults, who have developmental issues, will be sent to an assisted living facility, CBS News reported. David Turpin, 57, and his wife Louise, 49, are accused of starving, torturing and chaining their children and face lengthy jail time if found guilty. A source close to the investigation told CBS that the 7 adults will be cared for at a special care center. The younger children, aged between 2 and 17 years old, asked to be home together but are said to be split into 2 groups. The revelation comes after it emerged that the Turpins were planning a move to Oklahoma within days of their 17-year-old daughter escaping to call police. The family patriarch, David Turpin, 57, had been approved for a job transfer to Oklahoma with the defense contractor Northrop Grumman. The family was planning to up and move within days of January 14, the day their 17-year-old daughter climbed out the family's Paris home's window and used a deactivated cell phone to dial 911, according to sources who spoke with ABC News. There were boxes in the house consistent with moving, concentrated in hallways, entryway and bedrooms, one of the sources said. The parents are accused of starving, torturing and chaining their 13 children to their beds for years. The police responded quickly, and ended up arresting the parents and taking the 13 children into state custody. It was unclear if the impending move had anything to do with the 17-year-old's escape and subsequent call to authorities. The family had moved several times over the years. They moved twice in Texas, and once in California. Meanwhile, new CCTV footage was released Tuesday showing the children being rescued from the home by police. In the dramatic surveillance footage, the children are seen being escorted from the house by officers after the arrest of their parents David and wife Louise Turpin, 49. The video shows police at the scene after the 17-year-old escaped through a window, enacting a plan she had in the works for 2 years. Officers escort the youngsters from the home, one of whom is carrying her sibling and another runs to catch up. Police look on as the children aged from 2 to 29 flee, and an officer standing on the driveway is seen ushering them to safety in the video. Details of their harrowing plight have started to emerge since the California couple pleaded not guilty on Thursday to nearly 40 counts including torture, false imprisonment, abuse on a dependent, and child abuse. David faces an additional charge of a lewd act on a child under 14. They denied the charges despite evidence showing how they kept their 13 children locked in their rooms, chained to beds and allowing them to shower no more than once a year. The Turpins also starved their children. Their 29-year-old daughter weighed just 82 pounds, and taunted them with slices of pie. Among the most shocking claims of abuse are: the children were made to stay awake all night and sleep all day, often going to bed at between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. Their only permitted activity was to keep journals, hundreds of which were recovered and will likely be used as evidence. David Turpin is accused of a lewd act against one child, one of his daughters, under the age of 14. The children had been planning to escape for 2 years before they were rescued. The 17-year-old daughter who raised the alarm left the house with another sibling, but that child became frightened and turned back. The parents began using chains and padlocks to tie the children to their beds after one escaped with a rope. They would sometimes be chained up for months. One of the older boys was allowed out of the home to attend college classes, but his mother accompanied him there, waited for him until it finished, then accompanied him home. The couple's youngest child, a 2-year-old, was the only one they did not starve. The 29-year-old woman who was rescued weighed just 82 pounds. The children were tied up or beaten if they washed their hands above the wrist because the parents said it amounted to them playing in the water. The Turpins kept toys that were still in their boxes at the house but never gave any to the children. Cadaver dogs are being sent into the home to look for the bodies of any children who did not survive the ordeal, and DNA tests are being conducted to determine if any of the children have died and are buried in David and Louise's House of Horrors, according to a new report. The children will likely need years of therapy, psychological experts said. The couple arrived in court dressed in black with their hands and legs shackled this past Thursday, and were represented by a public defender before bail was set at $12 million for each of them. If convicted of all charges, they face 94 years up to life in prison, District Attorney Mike Heastron told reporters after the hearing. Sheriff's deputies in Paris, a town southeast of Los Angeles, found 3 of the captives had been shackled with chains and padlocks in their filthy, foul-smelling home Sunday after receiving an emergency assistance call from their teenage sister who had managed to escape. Heastron said the 17-year-old had been working on a plan to escape for more than 2 years, and took one of her siblings with her, who became frightened and turned back. The teenager was so emaciated that officers first thought she was a young child. Officers also initially assumed all the other siblings to be children, but were shocked to discover 7 ranging in age from 18 to 29. All 13 are being treated for malnutrition and undergoing other diagnostic tests. Heastron said all the children had been subjected to prolonged abuse, were not allowed to shower more than once a year, and barred from seeing a dentist or doctor. Circumstantial evidence in the house suggests that the victims were often not released from their chains to go to the bathroom, he told the press conference. If the children were found to wash their hands above the wrist area, they were accused of playing in the water and they would be chained up, Heastron said. When they were not chained up, they were locked in different rooms and were not allowed to have toys, although there were many toys found in the house that were in their original package and had never been opened. While the children's ordeal began when the family was living in the Fort Worth region of Texas, it intensified over time and worsened when they moved to California. They were fed very little, on a schedule, Heastron added. Mark Huffer, chief executive officer at the Corona Regional Medical Center where the adults were being treated, has described their condition as stable. Neither parent was able to immediately explain why their children were restrained, according to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. There was no indication that either suffered from mental illness, Paris Police Chief Greg Fellows said, or that the children's ordeal was linked to the family's religious beliefs. Initial investigations have confirmed that the couple were the biological parents of all 13 siblings. According to police, the family moved in 2014 from Texas to a middle-class neighborhood of Paris, some 70 miles, 110 kilometers, southeast of Los Angeles, homeschooling their children in their Spanish-style stucco house. A sister of Louise Turpin, Elizabeth Flores, told ABC the couple kept to themselves. This has been going on before they even had children. They were real private, and they didn't come around much, said Flores. We begged to Skype them. We begged to see them. As a university student, Flores lived with the Turpins for a while. I thought they were really strict, but I didn't see any abuse, Flores said. But she said she did have disturbing memories of the husband. If I went to get in the shower, he would come in while I was in there and watch me. It was like a joke. He never touched me or anything. Attorney Heastron described how the abuse allegedly intensified over the last 8 years, explaining how the Turpins went from tying the children up with ropes to using padlocks and chains to keep them in one place. The victims report that as a punishment, starting many years ago, they began to be tied up first with ropes. One victim at one point was tied up and hogtied, and then when that victim was able to escape the ropes, the defendants began using chains and padlocks to chain the victims to their beds, he said. They were beaten and strangled for reasons as trivial as washing their hands above the wrist, he alleged. One of the reasons for these punishments of being chained up were that, and by the way, the punishments included frequent beatings and even strangulation. They were all fed on a particular schedule and, as a punishment, were made to look at foods their parents left out purposefully to torment them, it was claimed. The parents would apparently buy food for themselves and not allow the children to eat it. Apple pies, pumpkin pies, and leave it on the counter to let the children look at it but not eat it, he said. Some of the children did not know what a police officer was when they were rescued, and many are mentally impaired as a result of what prosecutors called severe, prolonged and pervasive abuse. According to Heastron, the abuse began in 2010 and has intensified ever since. One of the children, a boy, was allowed out of the home to attend college classes, but Louise accompanied him. The levels of abuse varied from child to child, with David Turpin accused of sexually abusing a 14-year-old daughter. Only the 2-year-old survived malnutrition, but one 22-year-old only weighed 82 pounds. The children were made to stay awake through the night and sleep during the day as part of their torment, often going to bed between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. The case recalls previous kidnapping horrors that have made global headlines in recent years. Ariel Castro abducted 3 young women he repeatedly raped for a decade at his Cleveland home. He was arrested in May 2013 after one of his victims escaped. J.C. Dugard was kidnapped as an 11-year-old and repeatedly raped over 18 years by convicted sex offender Philip Garrido in California. She was rescued in August 2009. Austria has seen 2 high-profile kidnaps. Elizabeth Fritzl was imprisoned and raped over a period of 24 years by her father Joseph, while Natasha Kampusch was held for 8 years by Wolfgang Prichlopel before her 2006 escape.